What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be diving into a 5-minute hip mobility routine. It's really just 2 exercises that are going to improve a lot of hip issues that most people have. From what I've seen working in person, online, most people have a limitation in their hip rotation. And then also they lack the ability to be able to get down into deep hip flexion, or kind of like the bottom of a squat, while keeping their pelvis in kind of a neutral position, relatively speaking, or keeping their spine at least a little bit more out of it. So we're going to dive right into them. The first exercise we're going to be talking about is going to be a quadruped hip airplane. I know that sounds a little bit weird, and it is similar to a normal hip airplane. However, I find that this is a lot more stable than a standing hip airplane. You need to hold on to something a lot of times during a standing hip airplane. And for some people, if you have a lot of hip mobility issues, this is a great one because it's not too much load through the leg. It's a little bit easier. I mean, the standing hip airplane is not a bad exercise either, but once again, this is my video, so this is what we're doing. So these really get a lot more of the hip internal external rotators warmed up because we're going through our full range of motion. So you can see here, basically, we're just kneeling down on one leg. I'm actually propped up on my elbow on that same side. And all I'm doing slowly is trying to get this outside hip bone basically to touch the inside of this knee, and then basically spreading out. Let me show a different view. There we go, that's a better view. So really just trying to get a lot more of the rotation happening at this joint, right? So it's kind of like we're moving the pelvis on the femur, not the other way around. So it's a nice way to kind of warm up the hips, and once again go through a full deep stretch of the glutes on this inside. When we go into internal rotation here, you can really get this top hip down into that and get a really good stretch on the hips, and then also you get a really good stretch on the adductors as you go up. Not that we're looking for a stretch, but it is good to go through the full range of motion and just making sure that you get the hips warmed up through their full range. That way, when it comes time to lifting heavier weights, you don't have issues going into that. So 45 seconds to 1 minute on each leg for these will be more than plenty. Your hips should be on fire by then. Now, the next exercise that we're going to do here is going to be a quadruped single leg rock back. Quadruped, I didn't even explain that. Quadruped just simply means we're on hands and knees, but it's a single leg rock back. Now, the main thing here that we're working on is not so much the hip rotation, but more so that deep hip flexion. Trying to make sure our back stays relatively neutral as we go down into that descent of this motion. This is great for a couple reasons. One, we're getting the hip into deep hip flexion. That's the first one. 2, we're getting a lot of knee flexion. So this is also good if this is, during a squat, if you have a little bit more of a hard time in the knees, down in that bottom position of a squat, this is a great way to warm up as long as you can tolerate the knees actually like kneeling down on there. I'm doing it on a carpet. I would not recommend that. Try it on a foam pad and then go from there. But this is really great also because we're getting a pretty good ankle and toe kind of stretch, or just the plantar fascia on the bottom side of the foot. I really like it. If that is too much, I think I did a variation here where I have like my toe down, right? That's something you can do if you do have a hard time with that. But all we're trying to do is slowly rock ourselves back into that motion, or back into bringing the butt to the heel. And then we're bringing ourselves back up using our glutes. So if I go back here, I'm like literally using my glutes and my quads to push myself out of that bottom position. Once again, to make sure that those are the muscles that are warming up, so we can control ourselves going down and then back up. Once again, doing this one for 45 seconds to 1 minute on each side is going to be a great warm up. A little bonus tip: if you want to make sure that you are fully warmed up before your leg day, the first exercise that you have, whether it's a squat, deadlift, RDL, does not matter. The first movement that you do that is the bigger compound movement, which is what it should be, you're going to want to do that movement, but at lighter weight. Hopefully you already are, because that's the best warm-up you can do. That's going to be actually specific to what you're going to be doing. So make sure you do that as well. 1 to 2 sets before you actually get into your working sets. That way you're warmed up and ready to train. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.